Future Vision, Hark Reader and Stella Track GPS Navigator, presented by Lucy Begley of Humanware on the 22nd of June 2023. Future Vision is a series of technology events aimed at people living with sight loss. Future Vision is a collaborative project between 6 local independent sight societies. Sight Advice South Lakes in Cumbria, My Sight Notts in Nottingham, Sight Airedale in the Airedale area of North and West Yorkshire, Support for Sight in Mid and West Essex, Sutton Vision in the London Borough of Sutton, and Outlookers in Huddersfield, West Yorkshire.
Good morning, everybody. This is Future Vision, which, as people here know, it's a collaboration of 6 sight loss organisations from around the country. And we're delighted to have Lucy Begley from Humanware today. One of the reasons we got Lucy is because of the demise of Soundscape. So she's going to tell us about Stella Trek. Soundscape was the app that people liked. It was free, but it's gone. That was the navigation app. But also she's going to talk about Hark and other projects if people have got some questions. So, Lucy, I'm going to pass it all over to you. So, over to you, Lucy.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Oh, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning. It's lovely to be here. We've got a beautiful sunny day up here in Glasgow, so I hope the sun doesn't come in too much. I think the lighting's okay for now. I must say as well, for those of you who can see behind me, I do have a happy birthday banner because it's my little boy's birthday, so I hope you don't mind that. But with the decorations up and for the later this evening with the family coming round. So, but yes, so Tim has asked me to join you all this morning to talk about the 2 main products are the new Stella Trek GPS system and cameras, and also the Hark Reader. Now, I have just dashed and got the stream since somebody said they wanted to ask a few questions about that. So maybe if we've got a little bit of time at the end, if anyone wants to ask me about any other Humanware products, I'd be more than happy to answer those. So just to introduce myself, so I'm Lucy Begley and I'm the Regional Sales Manager with Humanware for the UK North area. So I live up in Glasgow and I look after Scotland and the north of England, along with my colleague Sarah, who lives in Bolton. So she's down in the north of England. And our job is to let people know about the Humanware products that are available. That's really it. So we do sessions like this. We visit people in their own homes. We go to schools or people's workplace as well. Just to let people try out our products, actually, get their hands on them, try out the magnifiers, go for a walk with the Stella Trek, try out our Braille technology, if that would be suitable. So I'm out and about quite a lot, traveling all over. I spend most of my time in Scotland and sort of the Lake District, Cumbria area, whereas Sarah would look after the rest of the north of England and North Wales. And we do have colleagues in the south as well, of course, so we cover the whole of the UK. Now, I think I'll start with the Hark Reader. And in order to do that, I've actually got it set up to my left here. So I'm just going to switch my camera so you get a better view of it. So I've got the Hark Reader here now. And the first thing I'll do is just fold down the arm because I want to show you how light it is. I'm carrying it in one hand just now. And it's a very, very portable, really lightweight reading machine. So I'll place it back down on the table. And what it is, it's an A4 platter. And I'm going to raise up the camera, which is on a kind of triangular shaped arm. So as I raise my camera up, I hope you heard the voice saying, please place your document. So that means Hark, great, that's good. The Hark is on and ready to go. Now, I could plug it in, but I've got it running on the battery just now. And that helps, with, again, with the portability. So I could maybe have it in my living room, maybe just on a little chair next to my armchair. But if I did think, oh, I'd like to take it into the kitchen, I could just fold down my arm and take it with me to another room, maybe take it up to my bedroom if I want to do some reading there. So when I raise my camera arm, my camera is in a fixed position. And that position means that it will see the entirety of the base plate, which is A4. So if I take an A4 document, like a magazine, letter, anything like that, anything with printed text on it, then I can be confident that the camera is going to read all of it. So I've got a letter here, for example. I've just folded down the top of it with the address. And I'm literally going to just place it on to my platter and take my hands away.
Introduction to the Chargeable Garden Waste Collection Service. Date, the 2nd of June 2021. East Redbridge Council currently collects garden waste along with food waste in your brown bin. Brown bin, sorry, please place your document.
If I take my letter away now, it just stops. So it's very, very easy to use. I simply place my document, the Hark takes a picture all by itself and starts reading. So I didn't need to press any buttons. And I really like that, like say if I was to place a book or something that just needs to be sort of smoothed out, like say I've got a magazine here. If I place this on, I mean, this is fairly flat actually, but say it got a bit crumpled and I needed to use my fingers to just hold it flat. I don't then need to have another hand to press the button.
Make beautiful.
I just slowed the voice.
They need our little help to fill out well and make a sturdy farm. Pinch out the growing tips of sweet pea seedlings to encourage better branching. Fishing out ensures that the plant don't become leggy and spindly. Use your fingers or some garden snips to remove the tip of each shoot when they are 10 centimeters, or please place your document.
I'll take that off again now. So what it was reading there is a gardening magazine, and it's clever enough to know that it has to read in columns. So this magazine's got 3 columns on here, and it starts at the top left. And actually, this page, when it was reading about the sweet peas, it's actually white text, very small, like newsprint size text, probably about 8 fonts. And it's white text over the top of a picture. So it's quite a busy layout. And as you've hopefully heard, it read it really, really well. So it's a pretty clever machine, actually, to be able to pull out the text from a layout like that. It'll also work with like books, as I say, anything at all with printed text, or even you've got a newspaper here, and it's just a standard sort of tabloid size, and I've folded it in half so that I can place it on, and then I know what's been read.
A Courier and Advertiser, Wednesday, the 29th of September, 2021. New food. Nessie clean bins.
Bit of an old paper here. Now, what I did there was I just clicked a tactile button at the front, just lower my camera very slightly to just give you a bit of a close-up of these buttons. So at the right-hand side, I've got a tactile button with the pause markings on it, so the 2 little lines. And if I press that again, it will pick up from where we left off.
Inspected in a bit of tackle contamination. Blue bins will be checked to record items not suitable for recycling in a scheme which started on Monday. Postcards will be...
And if I wanted to rewind, I can press my rewind button. So I just click that.
Postcards will be attached to contaminated bins, explaining what can be recycled.
And that's me listening to that previous sentence again. So, and other than that, it's just our volume slider in the middle to adjust the volume. We do also have a socket for headphones for people that maybe want to use it in the living room while their partner is watching a television, for example. So that's really the Hark. It's very, very simple to use. The buttons are tactile, but actually a lot of my customers don't even bother with the pause and the rewind. They just use it very simply to place their reading material on and then take it off when they're finished. There is a USB port at the right-hand side. And it will depend on the customer. Some people use this to plug in a memory stick a USB memory stick. Say they had perhaps printed materials about a holiday, maybe other hotel information, and they wanted to save it onto the memory stick and then take that memory stick to maybe their Braille note taker or their computer to just have it saved there and be able to access it on a different device. So you can use it as almost like a scanner for that purpose if you want to.
How much is it?
I was just going to say, yes, it's priced at £1,595, 1595.
£1,500.
So now all of our products
Is that excluding excluding VAT?
That is excluding the VAT, but as you're probably aware, our customers won't need to pay VAT on top of that. So the 1595 is the VAT exempt price. Now, with all of our products, we have the option of spreading the cost interest-free, which you might not be aware of. So we can spread the cost of any of our products, whether it's the Hark Reader or one of our, portable electronic magnifiers. And you can spread the cost over a choice of 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months. And that's all interest-free. Something to be aware of.
I have 3 questions. Ask them all in
Anthony
one.
from Site Airedale. I'm just
Okay.
wondering, what's it like reading tables?
Okay.
Yeah.
So tables, there is a table mode. I'm just looking at my reading material. I don't have tables here, but there's an option. You'll hear the voice saying read through columns. So the default is that, when I put this gardening magazine on, the default is that it will read one column and then move on to the second column. But I can change that. I can ask it to, if you heard that, it said reading through columns. So what that means is instead of going down one column, it will read across the way. So that can work really well, but I have to say it does depend on the table. If there's a very, very wide gap between one column and another, it might not realise that they are in fact related. But you can ask it to go across the way.
How would that work with the bank statement?
Yeah, so that it was bank statements I was thinking of. Some, it works really well. Other bank statement, it depends on the layout of the bank statement. So that's the kind of thing I'd like to try in a home demonstration. If I've noticed that some bank statements work beautifully when we do the read through columns, but there are some where there's a very large gap between, your Marks and Spencers, and then there's a big gap between paid in, paid out, and it doesn't always realise that that's the same, that's related, So tables are a very visual thing, and as you'll know, text-to-speech readers, it's always a challenge for it. So it works fairly well, but I would be hesitant to say, it's going to work. It's going to read every bank statement in the perfect order. We would need to try it, and we would arrange a home demonstration for those sort of specific things.
Is there just the one voice, or does it have selectable voices?
It does. It has 6 different voices. So that was Malcolm that we had. I'll let you hear the other ones.
Voice is certainly.
Oh, it's taking a picture of my arm. So that's Serena. Oh, Stephanie, actually.
Voice is set to English. Oliver.
There's Oliver.
Voice is set to English. Serena.
There's Serena. So 6 voices altogether, 4 female.
Voice is set to English. Fiona.
This is Fiona, the Scottish voice. That's a new one.
Voice is set to English. Moira.
And then Moira is an Irish accent.
Voice is set to English. Malcolm.
And that's us back to Malcolm. Now we do also, I don't know if anyone is on the call from Wales, but we've just recently got a Welsh voice, so not just an accent, an actual Welsh language voice, which works really, really well. So if anybody knows any Welsh speakers, can let them know that. That's something we've been waiting for quite some time.
If you have the USB stick, does it scan the document to a PDF file automatically?
So if you put the memory stick in, the formats that it saves it, it's not PDF, it's plain text and an audio file. So plain text is actually better for if somebody wants to plug it into their Braille note, for example, or a Braille display, so it can be converted to Braille. So text file, and also an MP3, a sound file, an audio file.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions on the Hark, or any comments? What do you think of it?
If I was interested in actually purchasing the Hark, is there someone at the end of a telephone who would help me? You've just demonstrated different things there, but I'm totally blind, so I can't read an instruction booklet. And to be just, you know, the machine just sitting on a desk, I wouldn't know where to start. So is there someone at the end of a telephone to talk me through?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, it's actually really easy for us to support you over the phone with it, because we can hear it, of course. So I've done that quite a bit. I'll just be on the phone, whether it's myself or if I'm not available, one of my colleagues, and we can just talk through. Once you've got it in front of you, it makes a lot more sense. And I can say, right, that's the, once you find the middle, that's the volume, and just talk you through the buttons and just make sure you're confident in using it. So we'd be more than happy to do that. We've also got a customer support department, so that if you did have any questions thereafter, even if you've had it a few months, we're more than happy to speak to you then. And we also have, for all of our products, a 45-day money back guarantee. So obviously we would hope that you would get it and love it, but if you receive it and for whatever reason feel, this isn't quite right for me, then you just let us know. We'll pick it up, and you'll receive a full refund. So because we know it's a lot of money, and it's important that you get the right technology
to get the right thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, something you're going to use 5-6 times every day.
Yeah.
I know, Linda. I know you're not quite. This is Tim from Science Advice.
Yeah.
I know you're not quite our area. We actually do have one here. Actually, if you're ever in the Kendal area. We do actually have one. It's somebody else's, but I haven't collected it yet. But he doesn't mind using it.
Yeah.
But also, I know Lucy and Humanware will help. But if you're, say it's a Friday, we're on the quiz, have a word with me as well, because I see it every Friday. Okay.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Could I ask a couple of small questions? I'm just I thought it sounds really good. I just had a couple of. I can't see at all, so I'm not sure exactly how it is, but it sounds like it's quite convenient. You mentioned about like putting in books, and does the thing have like any kind of clips or something to hold something in place when you put the magazine or book in? And the other question was just, let's say I'm trying to read one of the magazines I like is called Airliner World. And it has like pages, unfortunately, which are like sort of different boxes, in different colors, in brief. Have one little article and one section, like a column going down the left side with little in brief things, and then I'll have a main section, So that's the bit which I was wondering, can it do that?
Yep. So again, without seeing the magazine and actually trying it out, I'm not sure exactly how it would work, but I have to say, anytime I think, I maybe look at a magazine, this gardening magazine is a classic example. When I opened it up at that page, because, so I think it's just a wee bit of background noise there. So when I picked up this gardening magazine, because there are, it's not just straightforward, nice, neat columns. It's very visual. There's text on top of a picture. There's little circles with text in it. It's designed to look quite busy and quite unusual. And it reads it beautifully. It understands the text, even though it's overlaid on top of a picture. It's got the order. Sorry, is what I'm trying to say correctly. So I'd be sort of quietly confident that it would make a good job of that magazine. It might be that there's a caption in one of the pictures. It might be read in the middle of an article or something like that. There may be wee things like that. But I'd be pretty confident that it would do a good job on that.
Yeah, I've seen that page, Pierre. It's a visually impaired person's nightmare. There's circles, there's different background fonts, different colours.
Right. Okay.
And he read it. And he read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then about the clips, does it have like a simple, like if you're trying to put something on it, which is you're folding back the page, and you're like,
No, I know exactly why you're asking that, because normally with these types of machines, you always had to press a button to get it to take the picture, didn't you? So therefore, you're thinking, oh goodness, how do I hold both sides of this book open or smooth both sides of the magazine while also pressing the button? So one of the things I love about the Hark is that it takes the picture automatically. It waits for the page to become still. So as you're adjusting it and smoothing things out and holding the book open, it doesn't take the picture because it detects movement. But the minute it realizes that there's stillness there, that's when it automatically takes the picture. And we only need to hold that book open while it's taking the picture. Once it starts to talk, we can put a bookmark in and let it close itself. So we're only having to, hold that for a second or two. And of course, because we're not having to press the button, you've got both hands free to just hold your book open. So it's actually easier than having to sort of feed it into clips or have different contraptions. We've got just the A4 platter, which is, it's not a coincidence. It's so that you can line up your magazine, which, will be A4 or, a sort of standard novel size. You would be able to put both pages on the platter and measure it up so that if it is a bigger book, you can feel whether or not it fits on the platter or not. If it's hanging off the side, we know, okay, I'll swing this round and just do one page at a time. So you're never left in any doubt as to what the camera is going to capture and read because of the tactile nature of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, you don't have to worry that it's taken a bad picture and you're only getting half the text, maybe that much.
Exactly. Okay. This are really just it's designed for somebody with little or no sight so that you know exactly what's being read and what's not being read.
And it works in landscape or portrait. Sorry, just the last question.
Yes, it works landscape, and it doesn't matter landscape or portrait. It doesn't matter whether the top of the page is to the left or to the right or upside down. If you were to turn the page on blank side up, it would you just would hear no text, so you would know to flip it over so that the text is facing up towards the camera. Okay, were there any other questions on the Hark, or shall I move on to the Stella Trek now?
Yes, I think Stella Trek sounds good.
Okay, great. So let me just pop this to the side. Right. So I'll just start from the beginning. I'm sure maybe some of you have some experience with GPS, but just for those of you that don't, we at Humanware have been doing GPS devices for about 20 years now, slightly more than 20 years. And the Stella Trek here, this is our latest version. What is GPS? It's using global positioning satellite. That's what GPS stands for. So we've got within the Stella Trek, we have a satellite receiver. So it's picking up signals from the satellites in space, and then it's plotting those coordinates onto our maps. So I've got the maps for Scotland, as I'm sure that won't surprise you, as well as England. And we've got the Welsh map and Northern Irish map on here as well. So because those maps are loaded on here, I can then, it will then tell me, once I'm outside, it will then say, you're on Main Street in Birmingham, or wherever you are. So that's how it works. It's getting those coordinates from the satellite and then matching that up with the maps that are already loaded onto the device. So it's not a mobile phone. It's not using mobile phone signal. So you don't have a monthly payment or anything like that. It's a one-off payment to buy this. And that's quite good as well for those of you who maybe live in more rural areas where sometimes you don't have a strong phone signal. So if that's the case, that wouldn't matter with the Stella Trek, because you've not got their maps stored in the cloud. You're not needing that phone signal to access your map data. They're already loaded onto the device. So the Stella Trek on the GPS side of things, because there are also cameras built into the device as well, which are a really important feature. So I will come on to the cameras shortly. But on the GPS side of things, the kind of information that it will tell you about your surroundings are things like the name of the street that you're on, you know, the city or the town that you were in. Hopefully you would know that. But as we walk along, it would say three-way intersection, Main Street crossing King Street on your right, for example. So without pressing anything, it will just give us that information about the intersections that we're approaching. If we then take a right turn onto King Street, it will say, after you've walked onto the streets, you are now on King Street. So you've got that kind of reassurance that you've turned onto the street that you thought you had. Or indeed, if you have inadvertently taken a fork in the roads, it will say you're now on King Street, and you might think, goodness, I didn't mean to do that, and you can retrace your steps before you get lost. So it also gives you information about landmarks that are around you. So landmarks would be things like shops, train stations, cafes, that kind of thing. And there are thousands of these landmarks already built in to the map data. But we can also add our own, which is great about this. So we can personalize the Stella Trek to include landmarks that are more specific to us. So our own front door, maybe post boxes, that kind of thing. We can mark those in just simply by pressing a button and speaking into the device. So we would just say my house or post box on Rupert Street, whatever it might be. So we can build up extra information about our local area by just speaking into the device and recording those. Now, that's how we would use it sort of very simply, but we can also use it for routes. So we can record our own routes. So say, for example, if a regular route that you take is, you know, home to the chemist, we can again record the route. So we've got a record button at the sides, and we would walk that route for the first time with a sighted friend or family member or mobility officer. And we would name the route. And then as we walk, the Stella Trek will notice where we're going on the map and drop breadcrumbs so that it's logged the exact way that you walked, so that the next time you come to do it, it's able to actually give you turn-by-turn instructions. So when it tells you that there's an intersection approaching, it will tell you that there's an intersection, but it will also say turn right on King Street or turn left or whatever it is. So you're just getting that bit more information to give you advice on the directions to take, as well as just landmarks and things that you're passing. And that recording a route is very popular in our community because, I mean, yes, I can type in a postcode or a street address and house number and ask the Stella Trek to just automatically generate a route. I can do that as well, like I could, you know, with a mainstream device. But the route generated might not be the safest route to take. It might be that the route that you record, it might be a little bit longer, but it takes in a pedestrian crossing or just a safer place to cross the roads. So that's the advantage of actually taking the time to record your own routes, and then it's the route that's best for you to take to that location. So yeah, does anybody have any questions on the GPS side of things before I move on to the cameras?
How do you actually input your route? Because it doesn't appear to have a keyboard on it. So how do you actually put in the details?
Okay. So there are two ways of recording a route. So the first way would be if you're actually wanting to walk the route yourself and have the Stella Trek just record where you go, then we would simply press our record button, which is on the right-hand edge of the unit, the tactile button just below the on-off button. But on the front of the unit, that's a good point. I'll just talk through the button. So I'm holding this up to the camera at the moment. On my right-hand edge, I've got the record button and the power button that I mentioned. On the front of the unit, I've got a cluster of buttons in the middle of the unit, which are arrow keys. So I've got my up, down, left and right arrows. Don't know my left and my right. And then an enter button in the middle. And those arrow keys are how we would move through like a keyboard. So you can have the keyboard set to a QWERTY keyboard, or you can have it set to an ABC style keyboard. And then you would just simply move through that keyboard using your arrow button. So it's all speech output. There's no screen on here at all, because of course it's specifically designed for someone with a visual impairment. So if I was looking for Doncaster, and I had my keyboard set to ABC, I would be starting on A, and then I would press my right key and I would hear it say B, C, D, and then I would press enter once I heard D for Doncaster. So that's how we input, names or postcodes. But of course, if you're just recording your routes, you don't need to do that. You just press your record button, speak into the device, home to chemist, give it a meaningful name, and then it will then notice where you're going. It's plotting your turns on the map, so there's no need to actually type in your destination if you're recording it. So the other buttons though, so above the arrow keys, I've got two buttons. On the left-hand side is my go back button. On the right-hand side is my go to. So say I've stored in my route of home to chemist, I would press my go to button, and then I would press my arrow keys to toggle through all of the saved routes that I've got on my Stella Trek. And then I would hear my own voice saying home to chemist, and then I would press my enter key, that select key in the middle, and that would activate that route for me. Down at the bottom, just below those arrow keys, I've got another two buttons. One of them is quite a wide button, and that is my where am I? So at any point we can press our where am I button when we're outside, of course, and have GPS signal, and it will tell you heading north on King Street. So it just gives you that sort of prompt, which is quite useful maybe if you're walking along quite a long street and it hasn't told you about any landmarks or intersections, and you just feel you just want to just check you're going in the right place, you would just click your where am I button. And that's also how we would search for any landmarks in the area. Say you'd gone to a new town, for example, and you want to search, are there any cafes nearby? We can search for landmarks nearby under different categories. So we can have a food and drink category, or maybe you're looking for a bank, you would look in the banking category. And the last button on the front is our voice button. It's an orange button at the bottom right-hand corner. So that repeats the last thing that's been said. At the left-hand edge, I've got two buttons which control my volume. So there is a built-in speaker, but there's also Bluetooth as well as a wired connection for those that want to use a wired, maybe a little speaker clipped onto our lapel, or a Bluetooth speaker would work really well as well. We do recommend using either a Bluetooth or wired speaker, or the Aftershocks headphones, the bone conducting headphones that don't block the ears. So the Aftershocks headphones are headphones that actually sit on your cheekbones just in front of your ear. And they're quite amazing, actually. You can hear, the music or the instructions that the Stella Trek are given, but it's not blocking your ear, so you're still well aware of traffic sounds, which of course is really important when you're out and about. And then at the back, we've got the cameras, which I'll be coming on to in a wee minute. But does anyone want to ask anything else about the GPS side of things first?
Can I just say I like the idea about, that was one of the issues I had when I walk with my phone, is that often it will say something about I've got to a junction, but I don't catch it. It says something and there's a car going by or something. So I like that button where it repeats the last phrase. And
it's unbelievably useful, isn't it? There's always the biggest truck just at the point when you were trying to hear the instruction. Yeah.
It's and the price, I guess. You can say that later. Someone was going to say that.
The price is £1,049. £1,049, and again, we can spread the cost interest free if you choose to do that.
And just the sort of general size and weight.
Oh yeah, so it's I don't know the actual weight off the top of my head. I can certainly send it to you. I would say it's like a sort of like a chunky mobile phone. Like maybe a phone that we had sort of 15, 20 years ago. So it's thicker than a mobile phone, to accommodate the GPS receiver. But it's a bit, it's fitting in it's about the size of my hand, just smaller than my hand, including my fingers. So it's very comfortable to hold in my hand. It's got a nice grip in the back as well. And there's also a belt clip that it comes with. So you can just hook it on there.
So you can clip it to a belt, yeah, because so you don't need to have it. Don't have to hold it in your hand. That's all.
That's right. Yes, clip it to a belt, or some people quite like to use the clip and clip it maybe to the inside of their jacket pocket. Just to have it out of sight. Because I think you're aware of security when you've got it actually in your hand.
That's right. Because I was just wondering about it because I'm a guide dog user, and I need my hands free. Yeah, so that's a good thing. You can clip it to something. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. You want to have your hands free as much as possible. And I love that you can still, because of the tactile buttons, you can actually use this while it's in your pocket. You don't need to take it out to, in order to swipe or anything like that. So it's actually really easy to use, even if you've got gloves on,
So is it small enough to go into like a trouser pocket, anything, or a coat pocket like that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would fit in a trouser pocket. Depends how tight your trousers are. Definitely a coat pocket. I'm holding it like the width of a deck of cards. I'm holding it very comfortably, in my hand. Yeah. So I think anywhere that you would normally put a mobile phone, this would quite happily fit in the same place.
Yeah. Is it like you have to charge it first before you use it and all that?
Yeah, I would pop it on charge. The battery's brilliant. I think because there's no screen on there, and it's also a really good battery. The battery lasts between like 15 and 20 hours.
Oh,
which,
does it?
Yeah, for those of you who've used GPS on your phones in the past, you'll know how much GPS really, really eats through your battery. So that's another really good thing and an important reason for having a Stella Trek, that you can be confident the battery's going to last you, and also that you're not leaving yourself with no phone, if you need to phone a taxi or so that's another reason why people like to have that separate dedicated device.
Right. Okay.
Okay, well, I move on to the cameras then, because I'm really excited to tell you about these. So on the back of the Stella Trek, I have a smooth panel up at the top, and there are cameras built in there. Now, with any kind of GPS, GPS is accurate to within 10 meters. Now, don't get me wrong, quite a lot of the time it's actually spot on. We add a landmark and we navigate back to the landmark, and it's absolutely spot on. But we can't assume that it always will be. And that's always been a challenge with GPS. Like, maybe you've got to the vicinity of an address, but you're thinking, right, but where's the door? So the cameras, one feature of the cameras is that they take us that last 30, 40 feet. I could use my camera, take a picture of where I think the door is, and it will use artificial intelligence, AI, in order to detect that that's not just a rectangle, it's actually a door. It compares the pictures with its database, and it can detect, okay, so there's a door there, and it will tell you the angle. So if the door is dead ahead, it'll be 12 o'clock. If it's a bit to the right, they'll say it's 1 o'clock. And it'll also give you a distance, how far away your door is. And the other thing that it can do, depends on the door, of course, but it can pick out a house number, which is just quite amazing. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't going to work 100% of the time, because not all doors have house numbers. Sometimes house numbers are written in kind of very fancy script, so it doesn't, it might not always pick it up. They reckon it's about 60 to 100% accurate. I think that's fair with the testing that I've done. But it is great to get that information. Okay, so there's a door 20 feet ahead at 12 o'clock, and it's house number 22, and then okay, I'm next door. I'll need to, keep going along to the next one. That'll be 24 then. So it's really, really great to just get that, again, more additional information about your surroundings to help you bridge that gap to the actual, the door that you're heading to. So that's called address recognition. That's one of the features in the camera modes, which is really, really cool. you do need to hold the device up and hold it fairly straight. So you do need to have a certain amount of spatial awareness, and also I think just being aware that sometimes you might need to take 2 or 3 pictures to just get the angle right. Maybe make sure you're holding it high or lower. I mean, it does give you feedback. It will advise you to point the camera higher or lower or to the left and right. So it does help you. But it's still just good to have the mindset, okay, I might not get all the information I need first try. I might need to take 2 or 3 pictures till I get what I want. Or even if the fact that it says there's no door, that in itself is information. We know that we maybe need to move to the right to find the opening. But the other thing we can use the cameras for are what we call quick reading or detailed reading. Now, quick reading is when it just takes blasts of pictures. So if you're out and about and you just want to be given information about like maybe street signs, maybe the name of a shop, it's really good for. So it will take a picture of a shop. This is a distance camera. It will read out the shop name. It will read out buses, bus numbers and bus destinations, which I've tried it with from the other side of the street, and that worked really well. Or even just, if you're in the park and there's a sign, you can just, point it at the sign and it will say, keep off the grass or whatever it is. It's just good to have that ability to access text when you're out and about. So quick reading's more for those kind of shop signs and things in the distance. Could even be, the signs high up in a supermarket, milk, cheese, eggs, or, that kind of thing. Just to give you an idea of what aisle you're in, or in a hospital as well, x-ray department or, exits, whatever it might be. So it's really quite a useful thing to have in your pocket. But the detailed reading will actually allow us to, read a letter. So I can actually show you that. That's what it's one of the, let me just turn this on just now.
Explorer.
I love as well.
Yes, ready.
There's a standby mode. So and I've just pressed my button and you heard that it just instantly came on. So I love that. You're not having to wait for it to start up. So I'm just going to go into my cameras.
There's confirmation.
So there's my address confirmation. That's when I would take a picture of a door and hear house number and where it is, in relation to a clock face.
Quick reading.
Quick reading and
detailed reading.
There's my detailed reading.
We're ready.
So I am now holding this above just a small print letter. I'm just placing it down on the table and it's giving me a bit of advice about move further, and then it will take a picture.
Taking picture. Introduction to the Chargeable Garden Waste Collection Services. Trent Berkshire Council currently collect garden waste along with food waste in your brown bin.
This is a letter, a very interesting letter about our brown bin collection service. So it's reading that letter really, really well. I mean, I just held it, about sort of 6 inches above the page. And it did, as you would have heard, give me some advice about move further away, move to the left, move to the right. So it does give you advice on that as well, which is handy. And I can also,
text blocks.
I've just pressed my right arrow.
Confirm to brown text using this category. Introduction to the Chargeable Garden Waste Collection Service.
So by pressing the right arrow, because I've now asked it to move by text block, so in this case, that would be moving by paragraph.
Trent Berkshire Council currently collect garden waste along with the council has a legal obligation to collect food waste. The new scheme was approved as part of the council.
I'll just pause that there. So I was pressing my right arrow and able to just skip by paragraph, which is really cool. Or if it is maybe food packaging, that allows me to move chunk at a time. If it's like some sort of table with different nutrition information or whatever it might be. Bank statements. Someone asked about bank statements earlier. That moving by text blocks would be a useful feature to have as well for those. I mean, I've got a carton of passata here, and this particular one has basil in it, and that's the kind of thing that, like, in a shop, it would be really handy to be able to take a picture and just get those details. So I'll try taking a picture of this.
Introduction to the chart. Camera ready. Move left. Move up. Start moving. Taking picture. Asked about Sonda with basil.
There was that American accent for basil, but I think that's really good to be able to get that that information. And even like sort of the nutrition information is very small on the right hand side. I've tried that earlier. It's not perfect, but I think it gives you a really good understanding of what.
When you're ready,
Try it. I'll just let you
move
hear it.
farther. Stop moving. Taking picture. FFC fit tomatoes with basil ingredients: tomatoes, basil, acidity regulator, citric acid. Suitable for vegetarians. Nutrition we suggest this product provides 2 servings per 100 grams, 100.
Pretty good, that isn't it? You know, for that really, really tiny print that you get on the side of food packaging. Now, there is another feature that has actually just come live literally this morning, where we can actually scan barcodes as well. Now, I didn't want to do the software upgrade in case it was still doing it while I was supposed to be speaking to you. So I don't have that feature on mine just yet. But for anybody that's already purchased the Stella Trek, they'll get that as a free software upgrade. So it's going to allow us to take a picture of barcodes for foods and personal toiletries, so things like soaps and toothpaste, and it will tell us what it is. But what's also really good is that if it doesn't recognize the barcodes, but it's just for it. If it doesn't know the barcodes, maybe if it's a kind of lesser known supermarket, we can actually label it. We can say, right, well, this is Colgate toothpaste or whatever it is. Colgate's probably not a good example because it probably would have that information, but you know, something that's just not as well known, we can actually use our microphone that's built into the Stella Trek and label it so that it will recognize it next time. There's also a color detector in this new software upgrade. So using the cameras to take a picture of clothes and, you know, it gets information about what color it is. It will tell you the colour of what's in the middle of the picture, if there are different colours included in the picture. So it's what's in the middle that it reports on. So it's really exciting to see these new features become available, and they will continue working on it as well. Any customers that purchase it are entitled to those software upgrades free for life, the lifetime of the product.
Okay, thank you. Tim here, site advice. So quickly then, I would say, out of the box, if you press just the one button, it will actually, without any training, it'll tell you exactly where you are pretty well, and where you're going, and that's without hardly any training at all, is it?
Okay, so I'm glad you asked that, Tim. So there's in order to put the maps on here, that's done over Wi-Fi. So there are two choices for when some people that have got Wi-Fi in the house and that would be quite happy to do that. You would download the map that's appropriate to you. So you would download the English map, for example. Now, in order to go on your Wi-Fi, you would be, as I was chatting about earlier, you'd be using the arrow keys to move left and right in order to type in your Wi-Fi password. It's quite an easy process. There is a wizard that's built into it that talks you through what the buttons are, what they do, and it tells you how to, you can choose whether you want the QWERTY keyboard layout if you're more familiar with that, or whether you'd rather ABC. So it tells you how to do it. But if you've got somebody that's maybe not very computer literate, not so confident with technology, we do offer a service whereby we can do that for the person. We can load on their preferred maps in the office for them and get it sent out like that. Now, there is a charge for that. It's £80 for us to do that for the person, because it's a wee bit time consuming for the staff in the office. So if they've gone for that service, then yes, you're right, Tim, they would just turn it on. Once they're outside, it would say you're on King Street, whatever, and it'll just give you that information. But that you would want, if you feel that the typing in of your Wi-Fi password would be a bit challenging, or a lot of people have said, look, my son or daughter will do it for me, or we'll do it together. But just be aware that is a process that you would go through if you haven't asked us to do the service.
Thank you. How are we doing for time? Let's have a look. Hang on. Nearly 11 o'clock.
Right. A quick question regarding indoors. With the camera navigation indoors, could it detect doors and things, signs inside a building?
Right. So it can read signs inside a building, but that would be using the camera side of things and not the GPS side of things. So GPS only works outdoors.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah. So the reading of the signs is it's reading it through the OCR. It's using the camera to read it a bit like I did with my data here in the letter. So that would be the quick reading function you would do. So it's using the distance camera to read signs in a hospital or in a supermarket, for example.
Okay, thank you.
I just had a quick kind of off the cuff question. I just had to drop out of the meeting because my iPad overheated massively. It was in the sun. So does this thing overheat?
No, I mean, as far as I'm aware, I think because I don't know for sure, but I find that with my phone. It's in the iPads and iPhones, that can happen, can't it?
Yeah.
So I've not found that. And actually, I tell you, the weather we've had up in Glasgow these last 3 weeks, I think if I was ever going to discover it, it would have been then, and it's been absolutely fine. It's a matte plastic finish, so I don't think it would maybe attract as much heat.
It probably doesn't do this much, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Right, we're coming to the end now. It's 11 o'clock almost. Anybody? You had something about the check, didn't you?
Yeah, about the Victor Reader Stream 3. How close are we to being able to download audiobooks directly from the RNIB's reading services library and also Audible?
Right. Okay. So there's two different things there with it. So this is I'm holding up the new stream just now, the Stream 3. So the answer to the being able to download from the RNIB library, the answer is very soon, I hope, but I don't have a date. We've certainly done everything we can at our end, and we're in close talks with the RNIB to make everything compatible and make it work. We're really, really hoping it will be, imminent. We were sort of hoping it might be available for Sight Village in Birmingham, which is only next month. But until we actually have a date and know for sure that it's working, because it's got to work properly. There's no point in it having glitches and things like that. So we won't launch it until we know that it works properly. So I'm sorry I don't have a date for that, but it's something that I hope we will be able to announce very, very soon. Audible's different. So the Audible talking book service, of course, is owned by Amazon. And this happened when we launched the Stream 2 as well. I don't know if anybody remembers that or has the old Stream 2. The Stream's a talking book player, by the way, for anybody that's not familiar with it. It plays Daisy talking books and MP3 music files. It's got a voice recorder, that kind of thing. So it's a really handy device to have in your hands. The situation with Audible is that Audible really want people to use their own devices, like their own app, or their own devices to access their service. Now, when the Stream 2 came out, the same thing happened, and it wouldn't work on the Stream 2 because they said, well, we know we're not going to support it to be used on a third-party product. And we had to explain, I think we got a petition together, say, look, it's not just that we quite fancy using it on a different product. We need to use it on the Stream so that it is accessible. And they did eventually, understand that argument, and they did make it possible to use it with the Stream 2. So I'm really, really confident we will get to that stage. But what we are advising people to do is we've obviously asked as much as we possibly can, from a company point of view. But I think where they'll really start to have an effect is when users contact Audible customer support and say, I've got a Stream 3 and I'm a customer of yours and I want to use your service on my Stream because that's the way it's accessible to me. So I think if you please email Audible customer support and explain that, and the more emails like that they receive, I imagine the more responsive they'll be. So we just need to sort of keep the pressure up so that they understand that there's really good reason to make their service compatible with the Stream 3 to make it fully accessible.
So thank you very much, Lucy.
Live Well and Future Vision. We hope you enjoyed this presentation. The Live Well events take place on the second Thursday of each month at 10 AM. Future Vision sessions take place on the fourth Thursday of each month at 10 AM, and are technology events aimed at people living with sight loss. To attend the next session or to suggest future topics, please contact your local Sight Society, who will be able to provide you with the Zoom link.